What would you say is your top 3 pieces of advice for people who either want to kind of follow in your footsteps
Yeah.
or for people who are really trying to revolutionize a particular industry that they're in?
The 3 things. Be a rebel. Go with your gut. And bring in people into your circle that's going to be value add personally and business wise. Those are the top 3 things that I have to advise for people today, because things are going to start to get very sticky. You're going to have to bring more innovation. And also, I think that leaders who are different than their peers continue to stay different, because you're going to change the world as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. Welcome to Connecting the Dots. I'm your host, Jessica Carisse, and this space is a place where we talk about seemingly random topics, but in all actuality, they're connected together. And today we have a very special guest. Her name is Dr. Sheila Volante, founder and CEO of Volante Solo. Dr. Sheila has 22 years of experience in complex enterprise engagements. She's also the chief strategist and fractional CIO for mid-market and small businesses. Her current focus is on manufacturing. And Dr. Sheila supports the new industrial standard to help businesses evolve to the latest standard of how they should be operating. In the newest industrial age, this is also known as Industry 4.0. Dr. Sheila, that was a lot.
I know, right, Jessica? It is a lot, but thank you so much for having me. It's a lot. We'll break it all down in this segment for sure.
I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Likewise,
Just to give some context for everyone on the listeners, Dr. Sheila, we connected through Alex Tuck. I'll put the video of Alex Tuck here at the bottom. And Dr. Sheila, when we connected, it was like magic.
Mm-hmm. It was like peanut butter and jelly. The universe was universing for sure.
Yes. So Dr. Sheila.
Yes.
Tell us about yourself.
You know what? I'm somebody special, okay? Essentially, I'm just this girl from Lawndale, California, in the areas of Los Angeles. I really wanted to grow and inspire to be a Black girl in tech during that notion. And so a little bit about me, I've been in, like you said, in IT, specifically in business for 22 years. But I think that for me, it's been rewarding. It's been challenging. It's been a blessing to be a part of so many different dynamic aspects of solutions that people actually use here day to day, right? I can walk at Caesars Entertainment and know that first, parking and structure project that's billable, actually, I was the one to help put that together, or, be a part of the engine inlet for the Airbus A350 program.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And know that each time I fly in a plane of an Airbus, I can say I was a part of that, right? So I would say about me, my journey has been full of risk and reward, and I'm excited to share, my experiences with these small business and mid-sized leaders on truly how to get to that next level in their organization.
So you put some big names there. You have Caesars Entertainment.
Yes.
Airbus. That's
yeah. Williams-Sonoma, Alcatel-Lucent, Kaiser Permanente, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Target,
Target.
A lot. I've been around, I'm a roundaway girl in a good way. Regardless, I think I've helped and supported over about 85 companies throughout my career.
Wow.
And I think that what I did was very strategic. I've only had 3 full-time organizations that I was employed with. The rest of it was always project and or focused on strategy. And so that allowed me to collect about, 12 different industries areas and be able to help and support those organizations, at a short period of time.
And the thing that's crazy, Dr. Sheila, you look young.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you. Because I do feel like when I wake up in the morning, I think the ibuprofen is definitely needed. But yeah, for the listeners out there, I'm just turned 40 this in May, on May 15th. And I started very early at the age of 21. Um, so for me, it was, I saw a purpose. I saw something in myself really early. And I try not to go through traditional norms to do it. I'm just a non-traditional kind of gal.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
non-tradition. I love it. I love it so much. Because like I'm like the rebel in my family, like I do everything different than all of them. So
Yeah.
I relate to that 100%. And then I also wanted to highlight because you said you started at 21 and you had a vision and a purpose. So that sounds very intentional at the age 21. So now let's get into your story a bit. Like, how did you grow up? Like, what formed this? What was your environment like? Like, what were your parents like? Like,
Yeah.
how were you able to be so focused at 21?
Yeah. My mother and my grandmother were my rock. Okay. My grandmother was everything, very beautifully put. She taught me about believing in myself, right? Very
Mhm.
heavily involved in church, but she wasn't a churchy gal. She was a very spiritual woman, right? I mean,
Mhm.
she had astrology in the house. Yeah, that's kind of like a no-no in
Mhm.
there.
Yeah,
But she was
yeah.
my peace. She never screamed. She was where I can go to. Whereas my mother, she taught me how to be a woman. She taught me how to essentially know how to handle certain situations. Growing up, my mother, although she was married a few times, my mother carried the weight of the world on her shoulders and needed, someone to help and support that. I understand that now, but as an oldest child, you don't understand that. Like, why do I have to do all this? Why do I gotta take the meat out before you get home? Why do I have to
Yeah,
take care of these siblings? Right. But it made sense over time. And so as a childhood, just being the first, the oldest child, you have an automatic responsibility. It's just given, right? You have to set the example. And so, was I always the great leader of that? No. However, what I can say is I can corral people in a room to get things done. And I did not see that understanding intentionally being in my career now until it really hit me like later on, like, okay, I was poisonous. I went to Lusinger High School in Lawndale, California. I think Lusinger High School was in a point at that time. There was a lot of racial dividance and things of that
mhm,
nature.
mhm.
Um, it's weird. It was Hispanics and blacks, and it was just something that you don't see all the time on the camera, right, or out in the society. But those kind of schools, there was a lot of gang rivals, but
Right,
we were able to live above that. I not only sympathized, but I also grew up with Mexicans, right? Hondureños, salvadoreños, puertorriqueños, right? And I embraced their culture as well. So that also opened my mind up as a child to have more about understand about other people's cultures and listening,
right.
not knowing that how would this impact my career, right? And
Yeah,
it does
good
in a good
point.
way, right? You don't think about these little seeds. So I left home at 17. At that point, I was working two jobs. I had enough credits to graduate high school an entire year earlier. Um,
Wow.
and I started my journey. So I started at DeVry at 19 and I graduated at 21. So just imagine a 19-year-old kid having her own place, her own car, her own things.
And this is
And
in California.
this is in California. And
Wow,
yeah, yeah,
that's very impressive.
yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So from there, in my mid 20s, I started doing contract work, right? I went from working at Volt as a project coordinator to getting laid off the day after Christmas, which was crazy for no reason,
Okay.
to in a month after working for as a project scheduler for Ronald Reagan Hospital, making $30 an hour. At 21, you didn't know I was a walking DeVry commercial at that point. And I had the chance to kind of learn how did this thing work, right? You're told go to here, go get settled, stay at the job for 5 years, get your Rolex and move up the corporate ladder.
Mhm.
But down in my core, even at a young age, that wasn't it.
Mm-mm.
So I was met the universe actually mirrored me up with two amazing, I call them brothers of mine. Bowley was one of the ones that really helped and supported my career when I needed some cool contracts, right? And the other one was Gary Walton. Those two helped support me by placing me and actually talking about me in these rooms. So sometimes I would work 2 contracts at a time, right? So they helped elevate me and mentor me, and I'm forever grateful. Unfortunately, Gary did pass away, but Bowley, he's the brother that that
Yeah.
always stayed by my side.
Yeah.
And from there, I learned the game, and so I started to move around, and the rest is history.
That's incredible.
Thank
That's
you.
so incredible. It's so
Thank you.
incredible. And it's like, I have some points of that I relate a bit, as far as like, for me, I came across like Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was like 13 or so.
Mm.
And like my household was a little bit chaotic around that time. So just went inward into like my own little shell and in my own little world of magical stuff I like to do, like painting, reading, all that stuff. And so it was then I was like, I want to be a sophisticated investor, right? That's what the book talks about, being a sophisticated investor,
It does.
right? I'm like, well, how do I become a sophisticated investor? Okay, you have to be a business owner. I'm like, okay, all right, okay. What business am I need to get experience, right?
Right, right.
So I go into the corporate world, age 21 as well, start off as a reporting analyst. Crazy stuff was happening there. Like, because I was just picking up the job like this, mind you, I studied pre-med. I was pre-med, right? I turned down medical school. It's not that I didn't get in, I turned it down.
Wow.
It's a difference where
Yes, it
I
is.
wanted to live life. Right?
Right.
So I'm in the business field. Reporting analyst. Oh, you just need me this is the steps to do this? Because pre-med, you're learning glycolysis, all these complex processes in the body. You have to memorize it and make sure you get an A on the test.
Right.
So I have to do these 10 steps to generate this report? Sure.
Right. Easy.
But I didn't realize at that time I was already becoming a threat.
Right.
To someone who has been in the job 2 years before me and who was older than me. And then I was running circles around him and the whole office loved me.
That's how it does.
Exactly. And then from there, I was just jumping jobs. And at the time, they were still saying, stay in the job for 5 years. I remember getting into an argument with my aunt because she was like, you need to stay there. I'm like, they treat me bad. Why?
Why stay there? It doesn't make any sense. Just go on your own record.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The way I have the motto is how I came in is probably the way I'm going to go out. Right. And to say that, putting more faith into yourself just to go do it. Right. It might be a period of quietness, but let me tell you, nothing stays quiet forever. So
No.
I agree with you on that one. And it's so good to find somebody like yourself that has that same similar understanding, right? And I truly can't stay someone too long because I get antsy and I need
Me
something
too.
new, refreshing. It works better for my personality, and I think that's where I can be able to come in to these organizations and see things quickly,
Like this,
right? Where you don't have to find, 10 blue suits from a big 4 company trying to do the same thing, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And the suits from the big 4 company, they use all this jargon that doesn't even make sense to your organization.
Not at all.
And you think that they're so smart because they're using big words, but then you have this fat bill and nothing changed.
Yes, agreed. And that's the spell of kiss of death. I think the big 4's kiss of death is no surprise from my peers that they know how I feel about it. And hey, I meant at the end of the day, if you want to continue on using the big 4, go ahead. But at the end of the day, you're going to need someone to clean it up to do it right.
Exactly.
So give me a call.
Exactly. You, me, they always call us to clean up.
Clean up mess.
Clean up.
We like preventive maintenance people. We like prevention, right? Why do you have to go to the ER every time you got a sniffle, right? You don't do that. It just doesn't make any sense. And that's what they continue on doing, right? And they just need to come let's do some pre-work, man, and if you like chaos, then you can stick over there. But those leaders that are actually looking for, movement of making it better. I mean, those are the kind of thought leaders we do need that in this time and age. Yeah.
Exactly. And you know what else? I think the other thing why these big 4 stay the big 4 is because a lot of these other companies don't realize there's alternatives. And then there's also the relationship piece too, because
correct.
I did work at one of the, so instead of the big 4, I was at one of the big 3.
Yeah. 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 And let's say I think that story of the violin, I think these ships are starting to die.
They
And hear
are.
me out, because I think organizations are start to look at accountability to be
They
the
are.
metric than
They
the
are.
metric of, oh, this is my homeboy from Harvard or from,
Exactly.
MIT. And,
Exactly.
I'm gonna do him a solid. And then he comes in and doesn't know anything. Right. And so
No.
I think that during this new shift, you're starting to see big four companies. They
Exactly.
don't talk about it, but as
No.
we hear it to say, oh, they failed
Exactly.
again. Oh,
Why are they going through layoffs now? They were fine during the recession
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and that's one
in
thing, yeah,
2008. Yeah,
in
they were
2008,
fine during it. Yeah, 2008, they were fine during the recession. They grew during the recession.
they grew during the recession. We don't wanna let the listeners know. You wanna know why? These kind of Big 4 operations, they feed off of pain. So
They
that's the
too.
thing is that if you're looking to, conceptualize something, you're gonna go to, you're gonna go to Big 4, like, "What do I do?" Industry
Yeah,
tariffs, all this stuff, "What do I do?" And you're
yeah.
expecting them to get you out, but at the meantime, they're just sucking you
They're
dry.
just sucking you dry with thousands of dollars of fees, and
Fees
then
of
you're like,
yeah,
"Wait, what did they do?
right.
I can't understand this report. This doesn't have the language that our organization uses."
Right, right. And that's where it's a disconnect, where you bring in the boutique folks without the big, overhead. You're going to hear something even more valuable than that big ticket. We carry some amazing experience that not even the money can buy from Big Four can even
Exactly.
consume for that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I believe that in this next industrial age, amazing thought leaders like you and I have the momentum and that
Mhm.
opportunity to change things, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
coming.
because
It's
people's
coming.
businesses, they're crumbling. The infrastructure is not where it needs to be. They can't scale. You can't merger and acquisition your way to success because you do the wrong merger. You don't even integrate your companies.
Right, right.
So
Never
how you're not even
even of that, they keep selling the notion of AI, and then now here we go going down a rabbit hole about the people, right? AI cannot work without people. However, we have crazy, companies. Don't want to kind of name that name. It has a D and has an O at the end of it to say the CEO said we're going to make this 100% AI company. That's asinine.
it's
People,
impossible.
it's impossible, right? And put it in Spanish like imposible.
Impossible.
Yeah, like you cannot have that. We're not even there yet. We don't even have the
Right.
governance structure, even of the federal government or any country can say we
Right.
can fully be autonomous, right? But you
Yeah.
you have these people that think that AI is going to replace people, and these big
Yeah.
corporations have sent out yet again the big four has sent out this notion that this AI can just cut. Now, I'm not saying that it can't. However, you still need people, period.
You do.
So you
You
cannot
do.
discount them. Yeah.
Exactly. I do think there's going to be a shift, as with any type of evolution of business. There
Right.
is going to be a shift, but at the
Hmm.
same time, the shift is not going to be at the same rate.
I agree.
There are still some companies that still have
Right.
their invoices on paper
Yes.
and go
Yes.
like this,
Right. Every
you
single time.
know,
Yeah.
like
We gotta get them up and going, because if not, they're gonna look like Blockbuster, right? Blockbuster, to me, I will always bring that up, is the most great case study example of what not to do in leadership. Like, I don't even know if the
yeah.
C-suite is still around, but, you can't confine yourself to
There's
just
one
one
blockbuster.
Blockbuster in
Just
Canada,
one
Ottawa,
left.
Canada, you
Something
know,
like that.
and now it's a novelty store. So, essentially, I hear you, because this is why you and I exist in this. And in this day and age, it's important to have more conversations, real conversations, not BS conversations,
Exactly.
right? At the table. Um, and call a spade for what it is, a spade,
Exactly.
right? It is
Exactly.
not an elephant, it is not a heart, it is not a club, it is a spade. And I
Mhm.
think that once we have these um, not only conversations, but facts behind it to do more strategic work, that's where we're going to get it going.
The facts behind it. And like, that's why I'm so excited to be partnered up with you, because all the white papers and content that we're going to put out together, just showing, hey, this is what we came in with, this is what we discovered, and this is what we did, and
Hmm.
this is the impact.
Yes,
And then share that out like, hey, this is what you guys are missing out on because you guys want to spend millions of dollars with these big consulting firms that don't do anything for your organization.
agreed. Agreed. We have an uphill battle, but we are ready to rise, right?
Yeah.
As Black women in America that have this, we are probably in the 1%. Myself and a PhD in this, I am part of the 1%, right? So it's time to kind of change the narrative and write the
Exactly.
case studies with a different kind of tone and voice,
Exactly.
to combat all the noise and misinformation
Exactly.
out there.
Exactly. 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 Speaking of your PhD, let's talk about that. You got
Oh
a
man,
PhD, Dr. Sheila.
I know,
What
right?
led you to that?
Philosophy is such a beautiful thing. I started as just a little bit of context in 2020. 2020, God spoke to me. He said, "It's time to change. You're going to go through some changes." And I was kind of at a point where project management just wasn't fun for me anymore, right? It was just like, I'm over it, right? What do I do now? What do I do now? And so the thought of this new industrial thing, I've always been in technology. I've always seen these things, but what is that extra thing?
Right.
So it really focused my dissertation was on the perception of frontline hospitality leaders about the integration of robotic service on the front line. So
Interesting.
the study that I conducted was a qualitative analysis of the perspective of the frontline workers, such as frontline leaders, excuse me, of you know um, managers or shift leaders, and we wanted to
Mm,
know how do they feel about this new concept coming into it. Out of the study that came out of it, they know that it's coming, but they're not comfortable about their leadership to handle that much tech and that much change. They're not
fascinating.
prepared. Yes. So because we're starting to see these little Mimi robots delivering food, serving drinks, right?
Hmm.
The value proposition of understanding that here in the States, it says, does the hospitality industry actually have the infrastructure and the bandwidth to make these changes overall? I thought it was very fascinating.
And what was the answer?
Well, the answer is that we have a lot to grow, especially with the unions. The unions feel like AI
Hmm.
is never going to take their jobs away, which personally, in a sentiment, there should be more studies to actually see exactly how did other countries, because we're so behind here in America, how did other countries actually, um, how do they do it? We're about 12 to 13 years behind in many sectors in the United States.
Interesting. It's interesting because, like, let's say we go to Europe, I'm just speaking generally high level.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Most countries tend to have like a socialist structure
Yes.
where the government, supports a lot of, the living. Again, the
Hmm.
population is smaller as well. So
Hmm.
you don't necessarily have unions.
That part. So the culture and the fabric and the makeup of the United States, I think there was one politician going for the presidential race about in 2016. His name is Andrew Yang. Andrew
Yeah.
Yang
Mhm.
was basically the thought leader in a leadership space for presidency. However, here in America, as citizens, leaders are complacent because right now it's currently making them profit. If it's making me profit, why do I need to move around, right? We became less it looks like we've been innovative, but a lot of our innovations coming overseas from China, Japan,
Exactly. Exactly.
Germany, Sweden,
Yeah.
Ukraine.
Mhm.
So to add to a little bit more context to that, you're right. Universal basic income. Oh, that's socialist, but so is Medicare, so is Medicaid,
Yeah.
Social Security, right?
Yeah.
I think the American government has to kind of think about the replacement of this and how do they help and support their citizens on this new concept of, a whole autonomous country.
Yeah. The thing that's really, really fascinating is that I think in order for any of that to happen, the whole entire structure of the US economy would have to change
Yes.
because they did several things that doesn't make sense to me. Still, people still can't really explain it to me,
Hmm.
but getting off of the gold standard and our currencies based off of GDP and who knows how GDP is calculated and how those rules are changed,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
right? And then also, because I studied economics was my major. Oop, hello, Luna. So economics was my major. And in the 1980s, that's when wages stopped correlating with the increase of cost of living.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So from there, that's when things got really, really weird. And then you also have the subsidization of the universities and then the student loans, which
Mhm.
you can't file for bankruptcy
Bankruptcy,
on.
yeah.
So those are really, really crazy economic factors that kind of make it, yeah, I'm going to stay with my union. I don't want my union to go away. For what? They're the only people fighting for me. So I could live, you know? So, like, to me, I feel like in order for us to even attempt to catch up, there would have to be a whole restructuring of how the US economy is built and measured, and all the regulations and policies and all that stuff that go into there. And then there's also the cultural shift as well, where American culture is lazy. American culture is lazy.
Agreed.
I want everything comfortable, like
Comfortable
lazy, like
all the time. Yeah. And
yeah.
it's true. It's true. It is and that's why I think that it will satisfy two things in this new industrial age or a society age is that, okay, great. Americans are lazy. Let's talk about that. If we can be able to then capitalize on their innovation, that makes capitalism even sweeter, right? You know, going back to kind of economics, I believe that there's going to be more micro organizations than there are employees. If I go buy an autonomous pizza machine, right?
Yes.
And I'm able to exploit that to like 100, let's say 5 locations, I'm creating residual income.
Yep.
We still need to eat, but I don't need a human to do that, but I'm still making
Nope.
capital, right?
Exactly.
That's the mentality and framework that people are going to have to kind of move towards in this next area to say, I believe the death of big organizations is coming. As cheeseman, as I'm looking at this, it is true.
It's
right?
already happening. It's
Yeah.
already happening. Like, I spoke with an old colleague that I worked with a couple of years ago, and he was sharing about, you know, they had this many practices at this point. Now it's down to,
Right.
you know, all the layoffs and everything that was happening over the past few years.
They're just, and so it's starting to, what people are going to do. You can't go on a job board, right? HR recruiters are senseless at times. So
They are.
I just say people are going to get creative because one thing humans are, we're innovators. We're going to figure it out. It's just by nature. You're going to either sink or swim, right? And so with that being said, just because, you know, AI is a tool to help support humans to be more, whatever that might be, right? We're in a place, we're in a great place right now to expand on that. And I think like government entities need to start to add in some type of regulations, but at the same time also supporting this new society notion that we're not like the 1950s. We don't need to be like the 1860s, right? We have already surpassed that. It's time to kind of march on, move forward and be good.
Exactly. Like, oh my gosh. And it's funny, like, as you were talking, I got distracted with my cat, but I had a thought come to mind I had wanted to revisit.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about, the mental health aspect of it as well.
Is huge. If people can be able, mental health is something, right? This shakeup of what's going on in our country is it's devastating. And I'm gonna say it like it is. Those who thought that this con man was going to help restore this country has been bamboozled. And in my mind, there was a lot of things that could have been fixed, but there's a way of how to do it. And the mental state of people is super important at this stage to stay healthy, stay grounded, no matter what the situation is. But also do our part to be, you know, supportive, be quiet of what we do, but at the same time, inspire and grow for our communities because we all need it best. I believe in unity of people. People are important, right? We have so much dividance that makes it unbearable sometimes. However, everyone has a right to be here in this country, right? There's no borders. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel. I know that went off a little keister. I felt compelled to say that.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, that's like the other thing that I noticed whenever I do come into recover projects is the mental health of people. Because we can't get anything done if people are feeling like they're drowning.
Agreed. It's always important to ask the question. Sometimes employees, when I used to do projects, I used to say, "How are you feeling today, Ethan?"
Exactly.
Ethan will look at me bone crazy and say, "Sheila, no one's asked me that question." I said, "Well, I'm not everybody else." Right? When I used to deploy and help lead organizations, I remember at Caesars, I had a little help desk room. I
Mm-hmm.
came in, I built them, got every Friday they knew his donut. I'm bringing them some lunch or whatever the case may
That's so
be.
sweet.
I would ask them how their mental state is, right? I think it's important for leaders to, look beyond about what the task at hand is. And the secret sauce is if you are in tune with your employees and staff, you're gonna
Yeah.
get you're gonna get a lot of things done even better,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
if they're healthy, they're focused, and they're driven, you're gonna get to your goal even 2 times as faster as if it was not, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all those new PMs out there, you'll get less love by being a dictator and more love by being a lover, right?
Exactly.
No matter the situation or the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it cool. Hey, is there a problem? Yeah. All right, I'll fix it. No worries. No worries. And a lot of things where problems are aroused is because of mental state issues, because of emotional decisions or emotional outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And those leaders who have been in this space know and how to handle conflict because they look at the emotion first.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Everything comes from your emotions.
It is. Yeah, everyone wants to pop
Everything.
off. Let me tell you, I have some stories out there in my career, me popping off. But I
Yeah.
quickly realized that that was, probably wrong of me. But at the same time, learning over time, like,
Exactly.
when you treat people with kindness, you would get the kindness back to you. It doesn't seem that
Exactly.
you're weak. I think it's a stronger attribute to a person who can
Mm-hmm.
be able to handle conflict with kindness than
Yeah.
destruction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the other thing that's interesting, or actually a factor in this whole transformation piece, is the leaders who actually want to lead people, or versus the leaders who just want to be, career superstars, like
Yeah.
people who get leadership positions as just a next stepping stone only because they want to be on a board, or example, like,
Yeah. I think that the accountability measurement needs to be across the board because just bringing Johnny or Susie because, you met them at a family barbecue and they're going to tap your shoulder to hook you up is not, to me, I think it's unethical.
me
Uh,
too.
to me, I think that, people have a place and space. And how do you get up in those? Just prove yourself. But we all know how
Exactly.
the world works in networking, right?
Yeah.
It's always who you know. At times, not what you know, right? But I would say you're absolutely right. Stay true to yourself. That's it.
Yeah.
And everything else that is for you will come back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to pivot a bit. I know we chatted about this before we started recording. I want to dig a little bit deeper into your Industry 4.0 because I don't think
Oh,
a lot of
yes.
people know what that means, actually.
Yeah, let me go ahead and talk a little bit before I can show some slides about how I'm helping solving the complexity of trying to get manufacturing companies to be more smart driven.
Mm-hmm.
So Industry 4.0 is an abbreviation of the industrial fourth generation age, meaning that in this age, we are actually in a space where it is a hybrid model of a working class with also robots to help and support the working people. This doesn't only affect blue collar jobs, this also affects white collar positions as well. And the reason why this industry is different than any other industry before is because we actually have movable robots that are actually considered as capital to help and support for profit.
Mm-hmm.
That's never been done. Mankind have always been an
That's
anomaly,
right.
right?
Yeah.
So this one is one of the most influential changes of any time in history, right? So
Mm-hmm.
um, the reason why I selected manufacturing was because there was a big gap in not only, as we mentioned before, being complacent, but however, this I think that we need manufacturing here in the United States to be viewed a lot differently than what we actually have it today. So
Right.
what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen really quickly and just kind of show exactly what I'm talking about here. Okay. So I I go to manufacturing organizations, mid-sized and small business, because as we know, Big Four doesn't go anything under 100 million, right? They like to go 100 million above, but there is this mid-market area, and small business actually have the same opportunity to scale and grow. And so I kind of present the same high level deck, just as I mentioned about what is Industry 4.0. A lot of companies right now, we're hearing over the buzz. They're going out, they're going to go buy ChatGPT, they throw it in an environment and they think that that's it, right? But I'm here to tell you it's more than that, right? It's just more than just the surface level about how this new next gen technology can truly change the business system in the most profound way. And so, specifically, the convenience factor about manufacturing, the biggest one is going to be role transformation. You can still be able to keep your employees, but actually train them on how to do something new. And that, my friend, takes a lot of change management, understanding
Mm-hmm.
reskilling. It's nothing that we have not seen before. Industrial 2.0 was like that. When the big, CNC machines started to come out, right? These same workers were trained on how to leverage that on a manufacturing line, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then actually, doing this, they were actually now instructed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially the opportunity that these small to mid-sized organizations have is for better competition. I'm hearing everyone crying about China. It's not China's fault. China's smart. China is doing amazing. I'm giving them some kudos. Taiwan, all of them, right? Because they
Yeah,
were able to take a situation and build their country off of that. And this is,
exactly.
in our mind, conceptually, we're just thinking that it's an employee, doing this or whatever. No, they have a very strong automation. Why do you think we get our products that fast, right?
Exactly.
Okay. I
They're
know
very, very efficient.
very, very efficient. The reason is
Yep.
because they were very smart to actually get into the space very quickly. So,
Mm-hmm.
the biggest opportunity is that improving the benchmark over by 40 to 80%. That's huge,
It's
right?
huge.
That type of investment, and that can only happen if you change your organization's standards and processes and all of that to be more innovative to the current times that it is, right? So
Yes.
this is where this industry is. That's why I want to be in here. However, the challenges of even getting to this part is that you know leaders are really incentivizing or feels very overwhelming about the high cost of AI because of different things. Factories are not digitally scaled to have this kind of power. However, doing some modifications does take time. And then this point here about unclear about roadmaps, technology investments, right? They're unclear. All that they can see is what they've been doing for 60 to 70 years, right? So sometimes they lack the innovation to actually think about what if we put
Yeah.
this Mimi robot here that helps out Paul. Maybe that
Right.
Mimi robot can actually handle better titanium than Paul can do,
Mm,
right? And and so this is why it's important to evaluate the entire organization from end to end, not just at your Cisco, endpoint level or these
right.
devices, but actually the people that are in certain roles, the processes that everybody does, and also taking a snapshot about that technology here today. So what I propose and help in supporting is the solution, right? So I leverage a framework that the Europeans are using called RAMI. It's a reference architectural model for Industry 4.0. Okay. So what this model is a 3D model that brings in not only systems of IT, but also brings in the layer of process and people,
Mm-hmm.
right? So on the left layer, you'll see there that this 3D understanding helps and support the business, the functional, informational, communication, integration, and the assets. On the flip side, the manufacturing floor, I'm also looking at product, field devices, control stations in order to digitally understand how we're going to make this into a smart factory. The difference, the major change of why this kind of framework is important is because we have to keep in mind sometimes CNC machines will go away, right? Vertical mills will go away, right? So it is changing the type of development of that manufacturing sector to be less maintenance and more productive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest change there. With that being said, from that assessment, these are the things that will be evaluated, that will be identified. But what a leader will receive, this is the value proposition, is that you don't have to guess anymore, right?
Yeah.
That maturity asset models tells you where you at in your organization. Which industrial area are you laying in today? And that will show you essentially, I come in and considered this, get a strategic roadmap. This roadmap composes, again, people, process, technology, but also identifies the prioritization of quick wins. And then the last thing that makes the report a little bit differently, I sprinkled a little bit, is that I have a consultant, Unstoppable Leadership, Rima. She conducts the leadership assessment on how are they ready for a change.
The change readiness assessment, yeah.
Correct. Right. So she does that. And so with that, this is what, this is what it is. This is what matters. My service helps and support accelerating yourself to be more smart factory driven, right? You don't have to go spend that, $10 million right now on this. You're going to eat it one bite at a time. Making more informed decisions, change management roadmap. This can be something that can really drive a new traction for a mid-sized or small business.
Exactly.
So thank you for allowing me to share what this is and why I'm so passionate about this level. But essentially, this is something that organizations should take a portion of. And I always encourage, do not go by that AI until you actually understand where you are at today.
Exactly. And I love the approach that you have with the quick wins and just getting started with something small and getting traction on that and growing. Because that's typically how I approach my projects as well. My projects, my transformation projects as well. Let's start small. Let's prove it out. Let's see what we can do. That's what you consider like an MVP, right? And then you iterate and build off of that so you can see what's working quickly, what's not working. Can we pivot fast? Versus, more traditional approaches. People spend all this money up front talking to all these people, all these planning and making all these complex plans versus let's just do something that we'll have our evaluation, but we get started with the smaller quick wins and iterate off of that.
Agreed. It's always eat the elephant one bite at a time. I always say, how you can be able to, I think I said this with on tech session that, what does project success look like? When your people are actually happy and excited. That's how you measure success. And this will be the same concept. So I think the last thing here is that for me, I'm not there that long, right? I'm coming in to help you, guide you, right? And I recommend for you as well. So you don't have to go see outside vendors. I actually put them into that roadmap. This is very helpful. But this is the last slide of that time and cost. Everyone asks me, well, how much it is? It's flat. 4 weeks. This is what you have. This is what I'm preparing to do. And again, I've been in these spaces for 22 years specifically. So yeah, thank you again, Jessica.
This is wonderful. This is so wonderful.
Thank you.
And as we wrap up, what would you say is your top 3 pieces of advice for people who either want to kind of follow in your footsteps or for people who are really trying to revolutionize a particular industry that they're in?
The 3 things. Be a rebel. Go with your gut. And bring in people into your circle that's going to be value add personally and business wise. Those are the top 3 things that I have to advise for people today because things are going to start to get very sticky. Going to have to bring more innovation. And also, I think that leaders who are different than their peers continue to stay different because you're going to change the world as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. And where can people find you?
Yes, people can find me almost anywhere, but darling, I would have to say on LinkedIn, they can type in Dr. Sheila Volante, Marie Volante. But my website is Volante Solo. It's V as in Victor, OLANTESOL.com. I have a scheduled link, so you can schedule right on my calendar. I would love it to get a 15-minute talk. And so I'm looking forward to, to hearing from you guys out there. And again, Jessica, thank you so much for this time.
Of course. I'm so excited we did this. I can't wait for everyone in the whole world to know you and see what you're about and everything. You're such a gem of energy and brightness and sunshine and excitement. And I'm so happy that we got connected.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to make one more shout out, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to give a special shout out to Erica Jefferson, as well as Dr. Angela Charles, those two women have been the most amazing, pivotal women here as I've been transitioning here. And last but not least, my mother. So I just wanted to give that shout out today.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening and thanks for watching. If you were inspired by what you heard, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.